A girl is helplessly tied up to a bed. She is trapped and struggling with her breathing. The doctors are discussing what they should do with her. Meanwhile, the warden, Zarek, is told that they will be using the new technology. The new GU worms are said to confuse the minds of demons. The doctor releases the new technology, planning to use it against the restrained wolf girl on the operating table. Zarek leers with dark intent as the doctor makes the girl chug the worm. Her restrained screams can be heard throughout the whole operating room while she writhes in pain. One of the doctors reports that the worm seems to have an effect on her. Zarek orders that they listen to what she is saying. Following his order, he removes the gag from her mouth and leans closer to hear her clearly. The girl seems to be under hypnosis, but suddenly, her eyes turn wild and she bites the doctor. The other doctors try to restrain her and stop her with their shock staff. They are shocked to discover that their fellow doctor is dead. With insane eyes, the girl smirks wickedly and looks back at the warden. Frustrated, Zarek commands them to lock the girl in the confinement room while they think of their next step. Outside the facility, the system announces that a high-risk vehicle is entering the security zone. The heavily armored van speeds through the dangerous road, and inside, a young man is sitting quietly. In front of him, a hateful monster is watching him brood. His eyebrows furrow, and he calls his attention. The demon asks what kind of monster he is, since he is being disgusted by his human form. The man only looks back at him quietly. Insulted, the demon raises his voice and questions if he is mute. The man tells him that he is convicted of stealing from a human official's house. The red demon replies that he is embarrassing and looks like he is longing for the human way of life. He mocks him for being spineless and begging humans for a living after he covets being one. The demons agree with him and state that demons should look like demons. They look at the human sitting beside them and give him a judging look. The human then turns into a monster, revealing that he is just copying the face of a human. The red demon mocks the human-looking guy again and remarks that he will be sent into prison no matter how great he is at disguising. He then spits at his shoes to set him off. The man gives him a sharp look, telling him that he is humiliating others to boost his self-esteem. Seeing the tattoo on his neck, the man can tell that he is an esteemed demon from the Holy Glory War, but he is captured by humans too like him. Insulted, he lunges at him with his fist, and the man calmly looks at him. Under the heavy rain, the vehicle finally arrives at the demon concentration camp on the forbidden island of the immortal nation. Zarek waits under the rain with his subordinates and smirks when the vehicle comes to a full stop. With a booming voice, he commands them to bring out the prisoners from the car. The man earlier is the last one to exit the vehicle. He takes heavy strides toward the line among the other prisoners. The warden asks why there are only 9 people lining up when the list shows that there should be 10. One of the guards checks inside the vehicle and reports that there is still 1 prisoner inside, but he is knocked unconscious. The warden questions who is responsible for the unconscious demon. Zarek gives the monster a terrifying look and asks if he was the one who did it. The demon looks the other way, and the warden shifts his eyes to another demon. But the monster denies this and points at the man, revealing that he was the one who did it. Zarek adjusts his glasses and looks pointedly at the man. He walks over to him and asks for his name. The man tells him that his name is Roll. Zarek smiles widely, his teeth completely showing. He remarks that he doesn't smell as bad as the others, but he doesn't like troublemakers. Threatened with being punished, Roll argues that he was just defending himself. Zarek acknowledges this, but still gives him a powerful punch to his gut. As Roll is kneeling on the ground, the warden tells him to never argue with him. Triggered, Roll bares his sharp teeth and his long ears. The guards aim their weapons at him. Zarek declares that from now on they are all his slaves, and anyone who tries to disrespect him will die. For his crimes, Roll is sentenced to life imprisonment, and for the assault he committed, he will be punished with 7 days in solitary confinement. Roll remains docile and doesn't argue anymore. The guards tell the prisoners to line up and march towards the camp. Zarek smiles evilly at them, vowing that he will make them work obediently. He looks back at them and welcomes them to hell. Roll steals a glance for the last time in his freedom. The guards push them to walk faster despite their chains. As they enter the prison, Zarek calls Roll to step forward. One of the guards drags him out and guides him to the warden. Zarek tells him that he will escort him to the confinement room since it is his favorite place in the camp. As the warden and the guards escort Roll, the other prisoners talk about how his life is over now, since it will be a real challenge to survive the confinement. They finally arrive at an elevator. Zarek tells the guards to leave them and focus on their jobs instead. After he pushes Roll inside, he presses for the 9th floor. They ride the elevator quietly, and Roll takes a quick glance. He then tells the warden that they're the only ones there, so he can drop his act now. The warden deflates like a balloon, all the tension leaving his body. He smiles at Roll and remarks that he has been a good actor and has been cooperating well with the secret spy division. He praises him for using a prisoner fight to enter the solitary room. Roll tells him that it was just a coincidence since he discovered that the demon was part of the extremist Holy Glory War Society. So, he sat across the demon, who he knows hates demons, who disguise themselves as humans. Hearing this, Zarek can't help but express his admiration for Commissioner Roll. He then bows to show his sincere apology about the punch earlier. Roll raises his shirt to check for any injuries, but instead, the warden is impressed to see the technology used for all the spies infiltrating the demon kingdom. A demon core was removed from a captured demon and transplanted into a human. As the warden continues elaborating on how impressive he is, Roll tells him to stop closely inspecting him. Embarrassed, Zarek apologizes to him, remarking that he can't help but revel in his presence. The man tells him to discuss the target he needs to approach. Although he has seen the materials, it's important to hear directly from the warden as well. As the elevator continues to ascend, Zarek discusses that the demon was sent by the secret spy division, but his knowledge about it is limited. All he is sure of is that it's a violent one. Roll is a bit shocked to hear this as they finally reach the 9th floor. Before they step out, the warden remarks that the young man is impressive and hopes that he can succeed in this mission. The elevator door opens and the warden steps out, with Roll as the guards greet their leader. The demons howl as they pass by the prison cells. For thousands of years, the humans and the demons have waged a long-standing war with each other in hopes of erasing each other's race. Both races sent spies to infiltrate each other's territory to get information. As he continues to walk, the demons inside the solitary rooms roar at him. He reminisces about his training days with the Special Spy Division and how he was forcibly conscripted into the group. He is promised that if he succeeds in his mission as a spy, he will regain his freedom and he can see his family again. So, for this promise, he can do everything. They finally arrive at Solitary Room 621. Zarek hopes that he can come out alive after 7 days. He unlocks the gate and immediately an eerie presence emanates from it. Despite this, Roll stays determined. He needs to get the trust of the one bound to the solitary room. No one exactly remembers how humans and demons became mortal enemies. The demon race possesses extraordinary powers with their cores, and nearly wiped out humanity, until one day, a great sage appeared and saved humanity from complete doom. From then on, humans grew stronger and established the immortal martial nation. The war continued to rage on to this day, causing many lives lost. Roll wonders if he is the next one to be sacrificed in this conflict as a spy infiltrating the demon nation. He stands before the woman who is his target. The woman, Bailey, is looking at him intently with her wary eyes. She appears fragile and delicate, but she is extremely dangerous. He flashbacks to the time when he was given the mission. Their leader reiterated to him how important the mission is. He must gain her trust and infiltrate the inner ranks of the demon race to succeed. The leader revealed that 3 months ago, Bailey infiltrated their nation and assassinated one of their diplomats. She hailed from the Demon Fox clan and holds a significant status. She is incredibly strong and killed many before she was captured. Because of this, she was classified as A-rank danger level, and the leader warned him about being cautious around her. The man reminds him that he must follow the plan and succeed in the name of the nation. However, Roll didn't seem to care about the nation and is just doing it so he can see his family again. As he stands in the solitary room, Zarek steps in and covers his nose, since the place reeks of stench. Roll observes that the place is no ordinary prison. The warden smirks and reveals that they are in a testing facility established for the demons. This visibly shocks Roll, since he didn't realize that humans have been experimenting on demons. Angered, Bailey swears that everything humans have done to them will be repaid in ways they can't even imagine. Zarek is not even a bit threatened. He advises her to just obey orders. After all, no one can defy him. To demonstrate this, he pulls the bar, forcefully lifting her upward and causing her so much pain that she screams. Roll watches as he unsheathes his baton and assaults the girl with it. Showing how cruel he is, he yanks her hair and tells her to provide him some entertainment. He looks at her body and comments on how white and smooth she is. Curious, he wonders what she looks like in her true form, and if she has a tail. He yanks her hair tighter, causing her to wince in pain. Just then, Roll approaches and grabs his hand to stop him. With a defiant look, he calls the warden uncivilized for treating demons so lowly. Zarek questions if he is threatening him. He clarifies that he just doesn't want him to get into unnecessary trouble, reminding him that he should keep his distance from demon prisoners. He adds that high-ranking officials from the capital wouldn't appreciate a warden who toys with his captive. Zarek seems to realize that he's correct and so careless to overstep boundaries. The capital officials are always strict with things like this, and if they find out, his career would surely be over. He throws a glance at Roll, thinking that the young man just saved him. The special commissioner is ahead of his years and has a bright future ahead of him. Meanwhile, Bailey is just observing as the warden agrees with the new prisoner. Zarek expresses that he's still upset about being disobeyed. Roll volunteers to accept the punishment for her. The warden's face lights up upon hearing this, and without any warning swings his baton in his direction. Roll is sent to the ground by the violent impact. Zarek orders that they beat him mercilessly. The guards kick and hit him repeatedly as he tries to shield his body. Bailey watches the violence happening in front of her without showing any emotion. One of the guards raises his baton and strikes him with it in full force. The violent impact leaves him unconscious, and the guards finally exit their cell. As they walk down the hallway, Zarek warns them to look closely at Roll since he escaped the northern prison before. Back in the cell, Roll is still unmoving. Bailey tries to wake him up, wondering if he is still alive. She keeps on calling him, but he is still unconscious. With a horrified look on her face, she wonders if he was beaten to death. As she doesn't want to owe a stranger, she tries hard to reach him and shake him. Roll stays blacked out. In his dream, someone is calling his name. A bright light then bursts into the room he is in. A woman stands before him, saying that he has been chosen as a secret agent to carry out a special mission, and he has no choice but to accept. If he succeeds, he'll have a brand new life and his crimes will be wiped clean. Someone calls him from behind, and he is shocked to see his sister, Mina. The girl smiles widely, telling him that it's her birthday and she wants a chocolate cake. However, a monstrous hand reaches for her. Afraid that she'll get hurt, he screams that she watch out. The woman earlier smiles wickedly at him, reminding him that he should succeed with the mission or else his family won't survive. Enraged, he tries to attack her. Roll wakes up with a jolt. Shocked, Bailey recoils from him. He throws a glance at her and sees her in an uncompromising position. Embarrassed, he quickly averts his gaze from her. Beet red, she tries to point out that he had a bad dream. He agrees with her that it was nothing pleasant, adding that anyone who is imprisoned there won't have a nice dream at all. Since he took a beating for her, he demands that she introduce herself. Bailey sneers, since she never asked for his help. Seeing her so rude, he calls her ungrateful, but before he can even finish his sentence, she introduces herself to him and asks for his name as well. He tells her his name, adding that he is just nobody. She asks if he indeed escaped from prison. He confirms this, explaining that he broke out from the Green Island prison in the north, but was caught again. She is shocked that he managed to escape such a high-security prison, and asks how he did it. He narrows his eyes at her, accusing her of planning to snitch on him to the warden. Insulted, she denies his allegation, explaining that she won't ever side with humans. Hearing that she came from a respected Fox clan, he wonders why she was captured there. Offended, she insists that many died just to capture her, and she is ready to burn the whole facility if she wasn't shackled. Sensing her killing intent, he tries to calm her down. He asks if locking male and female demons together has another meaning to it. She doubts it, since in humans' eyes they're nothing but livestock in captivity. She's sure that Green Island prison isn't different. He agrees with her but adds that there was no one as pretty as her. To impress her with his abilities, he tells her to look carefully at him. She follows his request and is shocked that he managed to break his shackles in one quick movement. She demands to know how he did it, since the restraints were designed to suppress their demonic power. He confirms that he didn't use his demon core, and instead shows her a lockpicking tool. Seeing her confused, he points out that he invented the tool that can also be used for cleaning ears. She is surprised that the little tool has the power to unlock the shackle that has been restraining her. He explains that the shackle isn't as complicated as she thinks, and the ones from Green Island prison are far more advanced. He remarks that he lived his whole life as a thief, so this is nothing. She averts her gaze from him and remarks that he's full of himself. She questions how he managed to sneak the tool inside the facility when they have scanners inside. He demonstrates the trick and tells her not to blink. In one swift move, he manages to magically hide the tool, showing how fast his hands are. Impressed, she asks where he hid the tool. Instead of answering, he raises his hand and slowly gets closer to her. She immediately warns him about it, but it is too late since he already touched her hair. To her surprise, he removes the tool from her and asks how he managed to hide it on her. He explains that he distracted her away from his hands and flicked the tool in her direction. She realizes that it was how he snuck it in and stashed it on a guard before the scanner. After successfully passing the security, he just took it back. He wasn't sure that they wouldn't check the guards, so instead, he planted it on the warden. She narrows her eyes and asks what his next move will be. He smirks, telling her that getting out of prison is his priority. She asks if he knows a way out of the prison. He assures her that he will find a way since he can't stay and be experimented on. If he must die, he would die while on the run and free. She asks carefully if he already has a plan. He confirms that he has one, but he will need some help from the outside, and asks if she knows someone. She volunteers herself, but he seems doubtful about it. Insulted, she remarks that he doesn't know what her title, Hazen, means. She urges him to untie her so she can show her true strength. As he stares quietly at her, he contemplates that he knows exactly what her capabilities are. The moment that he unleashes her, she'll surely kill him. Since he is not moving an inch, she repeats that he must undo her restraints. Although it is dangerous, he has no choice but to release her in order to succeed in the mission. Meanwhile, in his office, Zarek is talking to a higher official on the phone. He assures them that the spy was already placed inside the prison. He vows that he will complete the mission smoothly and ends the call. Bringing his hands together, he plans to work with Roll until the end. Back in the prison, Roll is backing away from Bailey after releasing her from the shackles. Fangs bared, she looks extremely terrifying in her transformed form. She is even more horrifying in person, and her presence is on par with the woman he loathes from the secret spy division. Thrilled by her freedom, she wags her tail and observes the entirety of the cell. Roll stays unmoving, observing her as well since she seems out of control. Even though his department carefully plans out everything, this is one uncontrollable factor, and he needs to be completely wary of her. Like a wild animal, she screams that the smell of freedom excites her. He remembers that she has always been active on the front lines, and her strength is almost incomparable. Despite this, he needs to get her trust, or else the secret spy division won't spare him and his family. Everything he holds dear will be endangered, and so failure isn't an option for him. Resolute, he reminds himself that everything must remain under his control. She then suddenly turns to him, and he can't help but take a deep breath. She pins him to the ground, and slowly grazes her sharp nails above his chest. She questions who he is and which clan he belongs to. Terrified, he transforms into his demon wolf. He reveals that he came from the Northwestern Wolf clan and learned lockpicking from a human craftsman. She taunts him, thinking that he might just be lying to her. She can feel that his heart is beating so fast. However, she remembers that she wants revenge, and chatting with him almost made her forget. Seeing him confused, she explains that she will go after the warden after he treated her like livestock. In disbelief, he tells her that isn't the priority right now. She looks at him suspiciously as he points out that they should escape first, then they can plan the revenge after. She contemplates for a while and agrees that what he said is true since she can't stand staying in the place much longer. She stands up and asks how they are getting out of the place. He reveals that his plan involves the warden, and this piques her interest. He points at the pipes inside the room. Confused, she questions how they can be useful to their escape. He explains that the prison has pipelines that lead outside, and his very plan is to escape through them. She can't understand this since they're so narrow. He replies that there are bigger pipes, which he saw when he was captured. When asked how they will get the structural layout of the pipes, he replies that they need to somehow get access inside the warden's office and take him as a hostage. Next, they will find the blueprints and use the warden as cover as they escape. He reiterates that his only concern is whether she can beat him. She assures him that the job is just a piece of cake to her, planning to kill Zarek as well. With this, the only problem that's left is how they will get the warden's trust and get close to him. They need a reason to make him come to them. Hearing this, she offers to volunteer in luring the warden since she has intel that he won't be able to resist. After a brief discussion, he tries to convince her to put her shackles on again to keep their ruse. She refuses, since she has just been freed for a while. After a while, she finally agrees and offers her hands to him. After he secures her into the shackles, he tells her that their plan is commencing. He turns his back to her and is thrilled that everything is going according to his plan. Determined to make their plan happen, he screams at the top of his lungs and asks the guards for help. He screams that there is an urgent situation and waits for someone to respond. One of the guards is pissed that the monsters are howling nonstop. Roll perks up upon seeing the guard and urgently tells him that he has something important to report. The guard blames him for the howling and opens the prison cell to punish him. Gripping his baton tightly, ready to strike him, Roll denies his accusation, but instead of listening, he raises his weapon and swings it in his direction. Smiling, Bailey tells the guard it was her as Roll intercepts the attack. She states that she is willing to trade information for her freedom and reveal the location of her clan's intelligence headquarters. Roll smiles while the guard is shocked. Later, they are finally inside Zarek's office. The man is quite pleased that she finally agrees to give them information. He then urges her to speak up, looking forward to getting useful intel from her. She pauses for a while as he contemplates that no matter what information she'll give them, the warden will cooperate with the plan. He smirks at her as he recites their plan in his mind. However, she starts mumbling nonsense and calculating something. As she looks outside, she whispers to him that she just thought of a new plan. He is in utter shock when she suggests that they abandon their original plan and jump out the window instead. He looks back at the window and wonders if she is really jumping from it. Worried, he contemplates if it's safe to trust her with the plan since it seems like she's just impulsive. Their escape route is already planned by the secret spy division, and it will be tricky to go against the evil queen's plan. If she suspects betrayal, his family will be in grave danger. Besides, jumping into the sea will shatter them into pieces, since the raging seas below are unforgiving. He leans closer to her, asking why she now has a sudden change of plan. He runs down their plan of capturing the warden, getting the blueprint, and escaping through the waterway. She argues that the whole point of their plan is to escape, and jumping off from the window is no different. He agrees that she's correct but points out that they might die from the impact, making it too risky. She tells him that he just needs to trust her, insisting that nothing will happen. He refuses to trust her with his life since they just met. She looks sharply at him and replies that he can just stay behind. Since he knows how to pick locks, maybe he can find another way to escape. He refuses to be left since he will surely be tagged as an accomplice and will be executed. With this, he has no choice but to agree with her plan. Zarek notices that they're whispering about something and reprimands them for it. He warns them not to do anything funny because they'll be severely punished for it. Looking sharply at Roll, he reminds them that their family's safety will surely be at stake. He wonders if the evil queen told him to deliver the message. Tensed, he grips his hand tightly, worried for his family. The warden urges her to speak and says if the information is valuable, he will grant her freedom. She looks behind her, observing the guards. He watches her every move, still torn on what he should do. She is ready to give the intel, but since it's top secret, she can only tell him alone. Interested, he walks over to them, reciting the plan that he's getting kidnapped inside his head. After that, they will find the blueprints and escape through the drainage system. However, he realizes that the demon will surely kill him. He can tell simply by looking at her face that she plans on ending him. Meanwhile, Roll is trying to warn the warden that the demon is trying to escape through the window. They need to make her follow the original plan and stick with it. Zarek notices that Roll is trying to warn him about the window behind him. As the sky continues to rumble violently, he realizes that he's trying to tell him to let them escape through the window. In this way, he won't be kidnapped and be in danger. He gets emotional thinking that he'll be forever grateful to the commissioner. Roll wonders if the message he's trying to tell him gets across. The warden stops in his tracks. Goading him, she mocks him for being a coward after he stops getting closer. Zarek laughs loudly. Insulted, she asks what he is laughing about. He calls her pathetic, thinking that he will fall for her schemes. He doesn't believe that she'll easily reveal all her secrets after staying for so long in their facility. The two seem surprised by this, especially Roll, who is confused why the warden hasn't followed the plan either. The warden smirks, since they're obviously shocked by his statement. He remarks that they're trying to steal the blueprint and escape through the tunnels. However, the blueprint is locked in his safe and he has already seen through their plan. She calls him foolish and claims that he has made two fatal mistakes, much to his surprise. He warns her about talking to him in a rude way, since he still has the upper hand. However, for Bailey, he is the one who should be careful. She admits that she wants the blueprint, but she is currently in shackles. Zarek agrees and asks what her plan is to get it from him. He realizes that she knows how to pick locks and releases herself from her shackles. She then attacks him, to which he dodges just in time. He is surprised that she actually freed herself. Smirking, she tells him that he shouldn't have locked her with Roll. The spy is torn on what to do since he is in a tricky situation. Zarek realizes that he can actually pick locks. That was why he escaped from the Green Island prison. However, this is all meaningless. Zarek reaches for his pocket and grabs his walkie-talkie. He then commands the defense strike team to head to his office and initiate level A lockdown. He smiles to himself, thinking that he pushed them to jump out of the window out of desperation. The defense team arrives and Zarek commands that they open fire at the two demons. In a swift move, Bailey rushes to Roll's side to shield him from the barrage of bullets. Since they have been cornered, they have no other choice but to jump out from the window. She asks if he has a better idea. He curses the warden in his head and swears that he will come back from the grave to kill him. Zarek declares that he won't make it easy for the two to run. Harnessing his power, high currents buzzing in his hand, it turns into a mighty sword. The two prisoners are shocked, especially Bailey, who realizes that he can perform third-tier transforming matter realm. With this, he refuses to let them escape. Roll turns to his partner and asks if she can deal with him. She insists that fighting will only hinder their escape, and so they must head directly to the window. She looks out and tells him to follow her. They rush toward the window, and Zarek thinks that everything is going according to his plan. They jump towards the window as Zarek's weapon flies toward them. He manages to dodge it narrowly. Zarek swings his weapon again, making Roll fall back. Bailey looks at him but doesn't even move to save him. He can't believe that she is about to leave him behind. She breaks the window and stands on the edge of it. The warden laughs, remarking that he has a weak alliance. With this, he will be the first one to go. As Zarek moves to attack him, Roll remains still, surprised by the turn of events. Before he could harm the spy, Bailey intercepts him with her tail and grabs Roll by his legs. She then drags him and lets him suspend in the air. She looks at the raging seas below the facility. Roll panics, asking her to reconsider for a bit. However, she is decided and jumps out of the window down to the abyss. Roll screams as they plummet to their death while Zarek watches as they escape. He feels sorry while looking at the screaming Roll. He recalls the order he received earlier. He is supposed to severely injure him while escaping so they can eliminate the enemy's doubt. As he wields his weapon again, he profusely asks for Roll's forgiveness. Everything must go according to the plan. As Roll continues to plunge, Zarek aims for him and throws his weapon, intending to hurt him more. The sword pierces Roll and Bailey, screams his name. They continue to fall and Roll questions why he was targeted. The sword transforms and finds its way back to Zarek. The warden apologizes yet again, stating that he was just following orders. On the brink of death, Roll begs Bailey not to let him die. She assures him that it won't happen, and she cushions their fall into the water by enveloping them inside her tail. As they plunge into the deep waters, Zarek orders to notify the Maritime Patrol to capture the escaped prisoners. The Maritime Patrol searches through the dark waters and reports no sighting of the fugitives. The guards doubt they will manage to find them, as it feels like finding a needle in a haystack. In addition, it seems they may have already drowned in the sea. Just then, one of the guards notices something dark approaching their ship. As it gets closer, they alert everyone that there is an unidentified object approaching and that they should turn on the searchlights. To their shock, Bailey, still curled into a tight ball within her tail, bursts up from the sea and slams against the ship. The sight is beyond their comprehension, leaving them frozen in place. She finally unfurls, revealing herself while cradling the injured Roll in her arms. With fire in her eyes, she lands on the deck as the guards open fire. She whips her tail forward as a shield, then strikes back, cutting through them with brutal force. One by one, the guards fall, left at her mercy. As the ship continues to sail, Bailey wreaks havoc inside. One of the remaining crew alive begs her to spare his life. With a menacing look, she asks if he can steer the ship. The man immediately answers that he can. She instructs him to steer the ship closest to Sector 3 and keep communicating with the headquarters. He agrees to obey her orders, promising not to do anything suspicious. She then carefully lays the unconscious Roll on the ground. He winces in pain in his sleep, and she assures him that they're safe now. She turns to the crew and asks for a medical kit, to which he offers to get it for her. Later, the crew is steadily steering the ship, while Roll is still in slumber after being treated. Bailey's expression is unreadable as she looks after him. Meanwhile, Roll's face is contorting as his consciousness drifts into the past. In his dream, children are playing happily. Amu is showing him how her windmill toy is spinning fast. He reminds her to be careful and not run too fast. Mina approaches him, demanding that he also buy her a gift. Since it is her birthday tomorrow, he promises to buy her a cake. Mina is more than thrilled and sits beside him, requesting that she wants a chocolate cake. Seeing how happy she is, he reiterates his promise. However, Mina's tone suddenly changes, asking him about his mission. He is shocked by this and stares at his sister. Mina suddenly turns her bloody face to him, showing him the consequence if his mission ultimately fails. Horrified, Roll backs away from his seat. The other children all look at him and now have the same injury as Mina. He trembles in fear and shock at the appalling sight before him. Suddenly, he hears a familiar voice behind him, and when he looks back, he sees that it's the evil Muya. The head of the spy department makes her way towards him. As soon as she gets closer, he spits at her about her promise to keep his family safe. She sharply looks at him, reminding him that he doesn't have the right to negotiate with her. In fact, he should be grateful that the spy division chose him. She vows to grant him favor once he completes the infiltration mission. He replies that he doesn't want anything as long as his family is safe. She suddenly hits him, and he responds with anger. Seeing the anger in his eyes, Muya gives him a violent kick which sends him to the ground with blunt impact. She slowly approaches him. Now, completely at her mercy, she tells him to call her Lord Maya and show her utmost respect. He is nothing but a dog that should be loyal to his master, and the next time he defies her, she'll kill him. Roll screams in his dream. He then slowly opens his eyes and looks around the ship. Since he can't move and can only see the crew, he assumes that it's another dream where he is powerless. He remembers his dream and vows to sink his fangs into Muya. Just then, Bailey notices that he finally regains consciousness. Realizing that it's not a dream anymore, he tries to sit up and sees his injury. Fortunately, his wolf clan has an innate recovery ability which helped him heal fast. He asks if they're on a ship, as the vehicle continues to sail in the raging seas. She explains that when he passed out from his injury, she hijacked the patrol ship. He realizes that they're on a human ship, and everyone inside has been slain by Bailey. He looks at the dead bodies strewn across the hall, and asks where they are headed. Suddenly, the crew shouts that they are hitting something. Before they can even react, the ship leans onto the other side, throwing him off balance. He wonders if enemies are chasing them, but Bailey assures him that it's not the case. They have finally arrived at their target destination. Seeing him confused, she explains that they're in the dark sea of the Demon Nation. Looking over the sea, Roll comments that it's really haunting to witness. He remarks that the chaotic storm really keeps off the humans from successfully attacking. She agrees with him, stating that the southern region of the Demon Nation would have completely fallen without it. The ship continues to steer shakily, and he warns that if they go deeper, they might capsize. She assures him that she won't let this happen. She then chants something garbled. The perilous sea seems to react to her chant. From a distance, a merman hears her voice and swims across the sea with other aquatic monsters to respond to her call. They climb on the ship, putting Roll on edge. He is shocked to see deep-sea scouts on the dock. The crew steering the wheel is terrified as well, especially after one of the monsters instructs him to come out of the dock. Roll asks if she summoned the deep-sea scouts, to which she confirms. One of the scouts demands her identity since she knows their secret transmission signal. She reveals that she is the Hazen of the Fox clan, and offers to reward him if he helps in taking her back to the cold city. The monster is in disbelief to hear her true identity. Hearing doubt in his voice, she unleashes her power to put his doubts to rest. With this, they finally recognize her and bow down at her presence. She then commands them to take her to the cold city. Since her return is a top secret, she forbids them to leave her side. The merman agrees to her plan. Meanwhile, in the cold city, an aide reports to his master that Bailey has successfully returned to the city. The master is quite shocked that she actually managed to escape. He fears that she will be a problem in the future. Hearing this, the aide suggests that they make a move now, but the master replies that it's too early and they should observe for now. Meanwhile, in the cold city dock, the mermen have successfully escorted Bailey and Roll to the cold city. The monster wishes her well and is about to take his leave. Bailey expresses that she will speak to the defense governor to get him a commander's position. Roll is amazed by how thriving and prosperous the cold city is. Bailey explains that the city is located near the Black Sea and is a key defensive stronghold. It is one of the 3 major capitals of the Demon Nation next to the Imperial City. When asked where they're headed, Bailey replies that they're going home. Just then, a line of high-end cars makes a full stop in front of them. Bailey looks surprised at her own escort, while Roll is amazed by the grand display of her status. From one of the cars, a woman with a horn alights. Roll blushes, finding her attractive. The woman named Jira then bows down before Bailey, glad that she's safe. Hearing that the great ancestor is waiting for her return, Bailey can't help but be emotional. Crying, Jira tells her that the great ancestor has been thinking of her ever since she was captured. As Bailey struggles to fight her tears, Jira turns to look at Roll and asks for his identity. Before the man can answer, Bailey tells her that his name is Roll and he is the one who helped her escape prison. Hearing this, Jira shows her gratitude to him as well. Roll assures her it was nothing. Bailey tells them that they need to head back now. Jira agrees and opens the door for them. Inside the car, the two sit next to each other. The silence starts to bother Roll, so he steals a glance at her. Sensing his uneasiness, she tells him to just ask his questions. He requests that she drop him off somewhere since he doesn't want to get involved with high authorities. Confused, she wonders why it seems he doesn't want her to repay him for freeing her. She remarks that her family's influence can change his life. Confused, he asks who exactly her family is. She reveals that the Cold City was once named after her fox demon clan, the Qingqi City. Her ancestor is the great nine-tailed fox king who got defeated by the demon king, so later their city was named the Cold City. To curb their clan's growing power, the demon king relocated their clan, but they still stand at the top. He expresses that he doesn't know much about the demon realm since he grew up in the human world. With this, she asks if he still wants to refuse her repayment. He confirms this since she is more influential than he initially thought. She asks once again, and for the third time, he denies her repayment for saving her. Annoyed, she finally agrees with his plan, but wants to bring him before her great ancestor first. He clarifies that he can accept a money reward. However, before he can even finish his sentence, she shuts him up and says she needs peace of mind. They ride to her home in silence. Finally, after what seems like forever, they arrive at the Fox Clan Manor. Bailey announces her presence. The Fox guards are delighted to see her. One of them runs inside the manor in a hurry to report to the great ancestor that Bailey has finally returned. She takes a step inside as the guard continues to scream and frantically run. Luke, the chief steward, reprimands him for being loud inside the manor. The guard reports to him that Bailey has returned, and he is told to relay the good news to the great ancestor. Still, Luke isn't impressed, telling him that he shouldn't make a ruckus no matter what. To correct him, he makes the guard slap himself 60 times to learn a lesson. The guard begs to be spared, and Bailey points out that they're just overjoyed by her return and lost composure. Luke respectfully greets her and tells her to meet the great ancestor who is certainly missing her. Roll can tell that the chief steward isn't particularly fond of Bailey and wonders if someone is backing him. Meanwhile, Luke throws a glance at him. Bailey insists on interfering with the guard's punishment. However, Luke reminds her that it's his jurisdiction to look over the servants. If she thinks he's unjust, she can complain to the family head. She looks at him with contempt. Jira steps in and warns Luke about his defiance, threatening to report him to the great ancestor. The head steward reminds her of her position as Bailey's servant, so she doesn't have the authority to talk back. She grits her teeth in anger, while Luke is urging Bailey to meet the great ancestor. She clenches her fist, unwilling to do his bidding but at the same time trying to keep calm. The steward quietly sneers at her. Just then, Roll steps in and kicks Luke in the face with a violent force that sends him wincing in pain. The guard, Jira, and Bailey are all shocked by Roll's move. He reprimands the man for defying his master's wishes. Angered, Luke demands to know his identity. Roll isn't fazed at all, telling him that he deserves the beating for being disrespectful. He points out that Luke should carry out his master's wishes as the steward. Yet, he is openly going against her like he is placing himself above the young lady. Insulted, Luke asks for his identity. Bailey reveals that Roll was the one who helped her escape. Luke keeps note of this and tells the guard to scurry off after Bailey pleads for him. The guard thanks them for their mercy. Luke urges Bailey to see the great ancestor since she is looking for her. With this, she makes her way to the great ancestor's room. As they walk past him, Roll throws a glance at Luke, who glares back at him with obvious contempt. Luke quietly vows that they will meet again. Meanwhile, the great ancestor, Dana, is sitting on her throne. She asks if Bailey hasn't arrived yet since she has been waiting for her arrival. Her servant assures her that Bailey is now on her way. Just then, another servant enters the hall and announces that Bailey has finally arrived. Dana abruptly rises from her seat in anticipation. Finally, Bailey enters the room and her lips quiver as soon as she sees Dana. The great ancestor reaches for her and gently cradles her face in her hands. She takes a moment to look at her and observes that she has lost weight. Bailey is regretful that she has made Dana worry. She assures her that she's unharmed. The old woman smiles, grateful that she is safe. She then shifts her gaze towards Roll and asks for his name. Bailey introduces him and adds that he was the one who helped her escape. Dana gives him a gentle smile and asks how they managed to escape. Meanwhile, Luke is walking alone to the headmaster's hall. Upon arriving at the main door, he reports that Bailey has successfully arrived and she brought an outsider called Roll who she claimed helped her escape. The master, Aro, has a menacing look on his face. Luke asks if he will meet Bailey, but he declines. He orders to give Roll a reward while writing something on his scroll. Dana is amazed to hear that they jumped out of a high window to escape. Bailey replies that it was just a piece of cake, and humans were no match against her. Dana playfully comments that she's so bold, and commends Roll for having such impressive lock-picking skills. He thanks her for her praises. When asked which clan he came from, he answers that he hailed from Ashen Wolf clan, not a prestigious lineage. She then questions how he ended up getting imprisoned. He notices that her line of questioning is probing his background. He tries to be careful, and shares that when he was young, his village suffered a severe drought. To survive, he smuggled himself off to the immortal martial nation. Later, he learned lock-picking skills and started making his living as a thief. Eventually, he was caught robbing a high figure's house and was sent into Green Island prison, and now he is free again. The old lady feels bad for him since it wasn't easy to live in the human realm. Since he saved Bailey, she asks what reward he wants. Bailey interjects and reveals that she already offered him a reward but he turned her down. It was as if their family is some kind of calamity he needs to avoid. Intrigued, she asks why that is. He tries to explain that Bailey has also kept him alive during their escape, so there's no need to repay. Bailey only gives him a funny look, while the elder comments that he has picked up humanly traits. However, she can't let him go without showing him gratitude. Just then, Luke arrives and informs her that the family head won't be coming since he is dealing with urgent matters. Bailey's eyebrows furrow, and she tries to play it cool. Roll observes that Bailey's relationship with her father is quite strained. Dana comments that the leader should have just told them he doesn't want to come and spared them from his excuses. Luke insists that he is really dealing with an urgent matter. She replies that she doesn't want to see the leader anyway, but needs to consult about Roll's reward. Luke shares that he has already met the young man. With this, she instructs him to ask the leader about the appropriate reward. Luke answers that he already received an order. Roll is to be given the operations captain position in the Hoshin Street to gain experience. Hearing the name of the place, Bailey is alarmed. The place is a lawless zone and the previous captain mysteriously died. This is like sending Roll straight to his death. She asks Dana instead to send Roll with her in the military. However, Luke explains that they have no influence like that in the military. Besides, Roll is from a different status, and they need to have a clear understanding of his background. Roll finally speaks up and tells them not to argue over him. He reiterates that he doesn't need any reward from the family. Annoyed, Bailey insists that he accept her goodwill. He assures her that he is fine and doesn't think that he deserves the reward anyway. He also explains that he can't handle the position well, since he has only limited knowledge of the cold city. She immediately sulks upon hearing his excuse. The great ancestor agrees with him since he still needs time to adjust, but also mentions that her granddaughter is just fond of him since she doesn't have a lot of friends. She immediately denies this and averts her gaze. He smiles to himself, thinking that he's slowly getting her trust. With this, Dana tells him to think things over and offers that he stays in the manor for a while, to which he agrees. As the night falls, the servants escort Roll to his room. He orders the maids to leave since he is not used to being served. After they fail to convince him, they finally take their leave. After he makes sure that they have left, he gets ready to take his bath. He sighs after a long day. He contemplates that now that he has finally entered the enemy's lair, he needs to be extra careful. He reminds himself to be vigilant, especially about his background. As he sinks himself into the bathtub, someone knocks on his door. He finds this annoying, since he just wants to rest for the night. He shouts back and asks who the person is. To his surprise, Jira is outside. He wonders what could be the reason for her visit. He tells the girl to wait for a moment as he makes himself presentable. After a moment, he opens the door and asks what she needs. She requests that she come in to talk. He's a bit hesitant, but opens the door widely for her. He watches her carefully as she comes in. As he closes the door, he asks what brings her there so late. To his surprise, she leans to him so close. This leaves him perplexed, and he asks what she needs. Instead of answering, she leans more, this time, dangerously close to him. She confesses that from the moment she saw him, she was captivated by him. She then offers herself to him, much to his embarrassment. Beet red, he tries to stop her from exposing herself. He tells her that she must not offer herself easily like that. Insulted, she asks if she is not tempting enough. He replies that he's sure that she doesn't really admire him, because he can see that there is no love in her eyes. He opens the door for her and tells her to leave. Insulted, she stomps her way outside. After her pride is hurt, Jira runs away from his room in embarrassment. Meanwhile, Roll closes his window shut. He wonders if she is some kind of test. He scoffs, thinking that he would not fall for their dirty tricks. Meanwhile, Jira contemplates that the young man isn't easily swayed by beauty, and he seems trustworthy. If anything, she actually sensed disgust in him. She realizes that he actually looked down on her, and leaves the hall with contempt. Meanwhile, Roll is trying to connect with the demon core inside him. After concentrating, he suddenly opens his eyes when he realizes that his demon core has merged with his meridian energy. He suspects that this happened when Zarek injured him. The warden's attack actually helped in breaking some kind of restriction within him. He tries his theory and transforms into his wolf self. He discovers that even in his demonized state, he can use the power of immortal martial arts. This new power can give him the physique of a demon and the strength of immortal martial arts. He opens his window and wonders what the people at the Foundation are doing, especially Mina. He misses them all so much and looks forward to being reunited with them. The next day, Roll is interrupted in his sleep by someone knocking loudly at his door. Bailey excitedly tells him that she's going to take him out for a walk. He opens the door with a yawn and tries to send her away since he needs more rest. However, she isn't convinced that he's still recovering and yanks him out to see the world. Later, she brings him to the bustling center of their city. She treats him to a fancy restaurant and orders an extravagant breakfast. He is thankful, but it seems too much. She remarks that he deserves it since it is also his first meal in his brand new life. They cheer to their rebirth, and their wine glasses clink. She thanks him for saving her life. As he eats, he reminds her that she also saved his life. She clarifies that her gratitude is for teaching Luke a lesson for her. Impressed, she stresses that the kick he gave the steward was so cool. Curious, he asks why the servant was treating her so rudely. She pauses before answering, and her mood shifts. The waiter serves more food on their table. He serves them their special soup, and Roll comments that it smells good. He excitedly opens the lid, but is shocked when he sees a demonic eye inside. The soup almost slips from his hand. Seeing this, Bailey asks if he is okay. He assures her that he is fine, and just had a little hand tremor. He then politely asks the waiter for the restroom, and he offers to escort Roll. He realizes that the secret spy division is everywhere, and trying to infiltrate. As they're inside the men's room, the server tells him that he should head to the second compartment. He greets him, stating that it's a pleasure to meet the special agent. The server closes the door behind him and puts a sign that it is under repair. Roll slowly approaches the cubicle and wonders what might be inside. He grips the handle of the door and opens it. To his surprise, it is empty. When he steps further inside, he finds an odd red phone hanging on the restroom wall. The phone suddenly rings, and he picks it up. On the other end, he hears Maya's voice, asking how he is. She congratulates him for having successfully infiltrated the demon realm. Annoyed by her tone, he asks if she is congratulating him for almost dying during the mission. She tells him not to be so aggressive. He questions if the plan includes trying to kill him. She replies that it is a necessary step to gain the Wolf clan's trust. With this, he asks what the next step is. She answers that he just needs to survive being a spy and climb the upper ranks of the demon race and infiltrate their innermost core. He finds this too much, and it means he would spend more time in the demon realm. The leader reminds him that he is under her mercy, so he should do his best. Upset, he curses under his breath. He finally exits the restroom, and the servant informs him that Bailey is still waiting for him. Roll questions if many of them are planted in the cold city. The server doesn't answer but tells him he can dine anytime if he needs help. He goes back to the table and apologizes to Bailey for making her wait. He ruffles his hair seductively, and Bailey is quite taken aback by his move. He needs to rise quickly in the ranks, and he needs a better plan. Changing his tactic, he asks her to tour him around the cold city. Later, the two are walking around the city. Blushing, she steals a glance at him and asks if they are just wandering aimlessly. He replies that he wants to tour around Hoshin Street. She is confused on why he wants to see such a place, and realizes that maybe he is tempted to accept the offer. He denies this and states that he is just curious about the place. She lets it go and agrees to tour him around Hoshin Street. The street of Hoshin is full of homeless demons. A disheveled young demon named Sheng is seen walking through the streets. Elsewhere, a manager from the pharmaceutical group named Long announces that those who need to buy medicine can line up now. The demons only look at him when he declares that they can now start lining up. Sheng cuts through the crowd and offers his money to buy medicine. Long congratulates him for being their first customer and asks what medicine he needs. The poor kid tells him that he needs antibiotics for his mother who has malaria. The man tells him that he has them, but it costs 500 yuan per vial. However, Sheng doesn't have that much money and requests that he pay in installments. Long walks away and notes that they're not a charity and tells him to come back when he has the money. Sheng begs to buy the medicine at a cheaper price to save his mother, but Long remains heartless and expresses that his mother is nothing special. He stands again on the platform and asks if anyone else needs medicine. The crowd starts to buzz and discuss with each other that they can't afford the medicine since they're too expensive. With this, they start to disperse and leave the area. Long finds them rude and calls them low lives. One of the Hoshin patrolmen, Matian, steps in and tells him not to get angry. The people of Hoshin prefer the black market since they're cheaper. Hearing this, Long asks the captain why the black market hasn't been shut down yet. Matian corrects him, saying he isn't the captain yet but the vice captain. Long is confused since he's supposed to get promoted when the captain died. Matian explains that the Qingqi clan interfered and took the captain position for themselves. Long wonders what the Fox clan is planning with this move. Matian points out that although Hoshin is lawless, it takes up 60% of the cold city's population, and the underground economy is thriving there. Long agrees, since it's the main reason why their company needs to establish itself there. If they monopolize the pharmaceutical supply there, they can have vast power. However, Matian reminds him that the medicine dealers in Hoshin won't be easily handled. Long smiles and leaves the problem to him. He urges him to work with the director of the bureau, Heisen, who has always wanted a piece of the pharmaceutical business. He agrees to include them, but they must prevent every single case of counterfeit medicine in Hoshin Street. Matian agrees to deliver the message to the director. Meanwhile, Sheng is on his way home when a man asks him if he needs medicine. When the man asks if he checked the pharmacy's grand opening, Sheng admits that their medicine is too expensive for him to buy. The sketchy man asks Sheng if he's heard of generic medicine. Hearing that the boy has no idea what it is, he scolds him for being so ignorant despite living in the district. They're cheap imitations of medicine, but just as effective. The boy says he needs medicine for malaria and shows how much he has, but even with the lower price of the imitation, his cash is a bit too short to afford it. Falling to his knees, he starts to beg, saying his mother needs it to survive. His desperation was way easy to prey on, so the man says he'll sell the medicine for that price, just for him. As soon as he sees the boy crying with gratitude, he says he'll need his help in return for the favor. With naive eyes, the child asks what needs to be done, and is told to become an apprentice who'll assist with dispensing the medicine to others. He doesn't understand what this means at first. At the same time, Roll and Bailey were walking through the town without uttering a word. In absolute silence, he looked at the desolate streets ridden with poverty. He sees a woman walking while clutching her bag tightly, and a man smiling as he secretly follows her from behind. The bureau officer already knew what was going to happen. As expected, the woman screams for help when the thief snatches her bag from her grasp and runs off. He even passes by Roll and Bailey. Desperate, she loudly cries about the robbery, looking around and begging for help, but no one answers. There were police officers standing by the corner of the street, talking about a game of loss during a game of cards. She ran to them and urgently reported the crime. Met with a stern gaze, she can only point to the thief who was still escaping. However, she's only told to report it to the bureau and make a statement. After trying to get them to act, the men's voices are raised as they insist that they're only following the procedure. In fact, they threaten to arrest her if she doesn't leave them alone. Their warning makes her shake with fear. Defeated, the poor victim walks away with tears in her eyes. The two watch her, and Bailey asks what Roll thinks. That encounter alone has really opened his eyes. An illegal transaction for imitation cold medicine is conducted. The man hands the cash over to Sheng, who tells him to come find him if he needs to buy more at some point. As they go their separate ways, the boy is happy since he's already made 8 sales that day. If this keeps going, his mother's medical bills should be settled soon enough. Meanwhile, the car the customer entered was full of men in suits, who then confirmed the successful purchase for the medicine. With both the person and the evidence, they now notify the captain to make the arrest. Sheng stood in the middle of the street, blatantly selling illegal medicine. He even offers some to Roll while emphasizing their cheap price. The officer is surprised by the sale, not expecting someone to sell counterfeit drugs in the open, casually asked if the goods are fake. The child insists that they're cheaper and as effective regardless. Bailey smiles, saying the black market is really rampant. She seems to be well aware of the illegal activities. No pharmacy dared to set up shop there despite the population, but now a company has. Naturally, her family is one of the names who want a bite of the profits and wishes to oversee as the people who founded the city itself. If he comes there, he'll enter the force while representing their esteemed family. As he's thinking about it, a van suddenly sped toward them and stopped right in front. Everyone looked at the vehicle in confusion, including Sheng, who was still selling. Suddenly, the door opened and several police officers poured out. They rushed toward the child, who had his back to the wall, only able to scream in shock while filled with fear. Without an ounce of hesitation, an officer raised his bat and struck his face, making him tumble across the ground. His cheek was red and scorching, but the men were already lifting his entire body up by his hair. As he cried and struggled to free himself, Roll asked who the violent men were. According to Bailey, they're Hoshin's patrol squad. They were even rougher than the prison guards of the human kingdom, and their leader was just about to come. A black car came rushing in, and the two watched as Cora opened the door to welcome their captain to the scene. Matian, vice captain of the patrol bureau's first squad, walked out. Cora praises Machen, saying the captain's plan helped them catch the culprit, and is sternly reminded that he's the vice, not the captain. Despite this, the officer insists that he's the only one he recognizes as their head. The old man stares at him at first, but eventually smiles, unable to hide his happiness. That said, he's too insignificant of a person for Bailey to know. The vice captain walked towards Sheng, who was still hanging by his hair, and asked if he's their target. Helplessly looking up, he asks why he's being arrested. Machen raises the silver pack of illegal medicine, confirming that he's the one who sold it. He's given a chance to explain after being caught red-handed. Seeing Cora, he realizes that he's been set up and tries to reason, but is told that selling subpar goods could have him executed on the spot. The tears continued to flow as he vouched for the medicine's effectiveness. With this, he's basically admitted that he's the owner of the counterfeits. Goods without officially approved seals are considered dangerous to public health. Just like that, Machen leaves and tells the officers to take him away. It was over. Now that the boy was in the patrol squad, he'll definitely be beaten to death. The matter-of-fact statement makes Roll turn and look at the child, who was still doing his best to escape from their clutches. In tears, he promises not to sell anymore and begs them to let him go. Unfortunately, there was no space for regret in the cruel world they're in. Sheng wants to live, knowing his mother is still waiting for him to come home. Roll was watching intently while he pleaded for his life, remembering the other children who also asked him to save them. The memory hit him hard, and he shook with emotion. Unable to hold it, he surprises Bailey and starts to walk forward, putting himself between the vice captain and his car. Matian raised his eyebrow at the challenger. He bowed, saying the boy is his friend and politely asking for mercy. Unfortunately, he had no patience for such matters, and questions why he would grant such a favor to an unfamiliar outsider. This makes Roll smile and turn to Bailey, asking if the offer from before still stands. She confirms that it is. Satisfied, the young man tells the vice captain to listen to his words carefully. He was requesting the favor as the captain of the patrol bureau's first squad. The bold and unexpected statement takes all the officers by surprise. Confidently meeting Machen's eyes, Roll recalls hearing that he's the squad's vice captain and adds that he might just be his direct superior. Cora whispers, wondering if the stranger's words possibly are true, but his doubt alone is enough to warrant a deadly gaze from his leader. The veteran narrows his eyes, calculating the changes of the kid being the actual captain. Just then, he spots Bailey at the edge of his vision, and the presence of someone from the Qingqi family might just confirm it. Politely putting his hands together, he asks the girl if she's from the noble family. She curtly questions if he's even worthy of speaking to her. Her words silence him, and his voice only returns when she asks if he has an official document for the duties he's carrying out. Told that they're responding to reports of someone dealing illicit medicine, she says that the street has always had such activities happening, and questions why they're all of a sudden so intent on persecution. The vice captain reasons that they've never had a proper pharmacy before, as none have been willing to come ever since the Great Fire 50 years ago. Because of this, the Bureau has been considerate of the citizens and never banned contraband. Things are different now. The Nine-Headed Bird Pharmaceutical Corporation has set up shop in Hoshin. With legitimate medicine now available to the residents, they can no longer allow illegal sellers to exist. Staring down at Sheng, he says such criminals can be sentenced to death, and that he's only following regulations. Machen had no intention of giving the new captain any face, since his subordinates were also just following the official rules of the force. Roll asks what happened if he uses his authority to do what he wants, but this won't be possible since none of them have been notified of his appointment. Once he officially assumes his role, the vice captain will be the first one to congratulate him. Standing his ground, Matian tells his men to take the boy away, so they follow his orders and shove Shang into the van despite his pleas. Bailey moved, seemingly ready to start something, but Roll holds her back and tells her not to go. She's stunned that he's willing to let this go. However, he knows this will happen a lot, and that he can't always count on her family. The two let the officers go for now. After all, what's important is that he's identified himself and stirred some waves. Machen should be uneasy, and considering how he's brave enough to go against Bailey, his backer must not be aligned with her family. Next, he'll have to slowly play with them. Back at the Qingqi family residence, Roll sat beside Bailey, while wearing a police officer's uniform. Dana encourages him to be careful, and use the chaos to make a name for himself. After thanking the ancestor for her support and guidance, he's reminded to come back often, and consider the mansion his home. With this, he was ready to set off on his new journey. Meanwhile, Luke was in front of Aro's room, asking if he'd like to meet the newcomer before he leaves. The clan head has no interest in speaking to someone who hasn't stirred a single wave, but is willing to in the event that he proves his worth to the family. The two were right outside the family gate. Surprised that he's actually going, Bailey admits feeling a bit of admiration. Roll argues that there must be some good people in such a populated place. Fortunately, the young lady has already arranged for someone to assist him. He's curious as to who she's talking about, but she just says that he'll know once he actually reaches the station. He finds himself silently sitting in the middle of the patrol bureau's headquarters. After a long while of waiting, the newbie is finally called on to meet with the chief. Standing at attention and giving a firm salute, the newcomer stood in front of the chief to introduce himself. There, Wuji stared at him with an observant gaze and proceeded to praise his sharp and snappy behavior. He takes a look at the young one's file and goes through his details, but there isn't much to know about him from his records. After all, he used to make a living in the immortal martial nation. The chief mentions how he supposedly saved the Qingqi family's young lady, but he remains humble and vaguely denies the feat. Roll is told not to be so nervous as the chief has some ties to the family. Asked if he's good with firearms, he admits that he isn't but promises to train hard. With this, he's officially appointed as the first squad's captain, and is told to be friendly. Hashin, while under the cold city, has a high degree of autonomy. The environment is complex, so he must be careful and adapt well. Told that he's there to make the chief's job easier, Wuji becomes expectant of the newcomer, although he warns that he'll deal with him without hesitation if needed. Everything was settled now, and there was a subordinate outside the room, waiting to bring him to his squad. When he opens the door, Roll hears a familiar voice, and is surprised by who he sees is waiting for him. Jira smiled brightly, introducing herself as his subordinate. Roll recognizes the maid that's supposed to be by Bailey's side. To his surprise, she says she was born and raised in Hoshin, which is why she's quite familiar with how things work there. While offering to show him around the headquarters, she shares that her older brother used to be an officer when she was a kid. He starts to ask something, but she already knows that he's curious why she became a maid. After all, joining the force seemed to be quite the profitable job. The bright girl loses the light in her eyes for a moment, and she says she already considers her brother dead. He didn't expect such a grim statement, but based on how she falls silent afterward, he wonders if he said something wrong. It's not that. If he hadn't mentioned her brother, she would have almost forgotten about him. Roll offers to buy them a meal and encourages her to reconnect. Unfortunately, the sibling went missing during a mission years ago. He understands her grief, as he's also gone through something akin to losing family too many farewells. Getting back to the point, he sees no need to dwell on sad things. If she allows it, he wants to act as her older brother from now on. His sincere statement makes the young lady blush, but she gladly accepts his offer and starts to count on her new brother. Now, it was time to continue with the tour they talked about. She notes the locations of certain rooms while walking around. They reach the armory and see shelves filled with dozens of heavy firearms. He didn't expect the bureau in the slums to be so well armed. It's natural for him not to know about it. Gray market gang factions pay hefty tributes to the bureau every year, and it's used to help officers keep things from becoming too chaotic. This makes sense to him. Just then, their conversation is interrupted by loud laughter from a nearby room. He questions why it was so noisy, and is told that it's his squad. The new captain is shocked. The ace of spades is dropped onto the pile of cards. While Roll and Jira watch from outside, Xing asked Matian if the new guy really was going to outshine them. The vice captain answers like he's already accepted the situation, but the two lackeys he's playing with encourages him to go all out, insisting that he's the only one they're loyal to. Continuing to play, he tells them that there's no need to panic, since the director already knows about the situation. The room was still and tense. After working for so many years and earning all the merits, he believed that the position could only belong to him. Again, they profess their support and loyalty to him. Ching spits a cigarette to the side and is surprised to see it land by an unfamiliar set of boots. Slowly looking up, he sees the new captain glaring at him. The sight makes him stand up and salute out, but the officer catches himself, realizing that the vice he's loyal to was still seated. With the awkward air, Madian uncaringly removed his feet from the table and stood up. Starting an applause, he loudly welcomes the new head of the squad. Roll was silent and just stared, so the veteran invited the rest of the team to follow suit and clap. The entire thing was clearly a power play by the vice captain. He plays dumb and says he didn't have such intentions. Not new to such situations, the human spy plays along and called to Korra, mentioning his low salary to pay for his family obligations, despite working for 5 years. The officer is stunned silent, but he continues and does the same for the other 2 officers who were earning even less. With the entire room frozen, Roll promises to feed his allies and destroy all his enemies brutally. Jira was impressed by the move. Meanwhile, the room was still, and the officers hit with reality contemplated, unsure of what to do. Korra turned to Machen, hoping for some sort of assurance, but Roll wasn't going to let it happen and pressed them for an answer. Finally, the supposedly loyal officer bowed to the vice in apology and walked towards the new captain. It's quite the gutsy move. Emphasizing how he must know that following the wrong person is deadly, he asks the rest of the team what they're going to do. The others soon follow suit, unable to meet his eyes. Machen's fist shook with anger, but he calms himself down and accepts it for now. Looking forward to what will happen next, he walks out of the room with furrowed eyebrows. While the newcomer smiled, Jira said she finally understood why Bailey gave the orders she did. This makes him wonder what she said, so she shares that she was ordered to protect him from any and all harm. He's skeptical that such a small lady could actually do that, but she just confidently says that he'll understand in due time. Korra then cautiously called to the captain. With worried eyes, they politely place themselves in his care. He promises that their judgment will be rewarded accordingly. For now, he'd like to know more about Madian from the people who've worked with him. His backer is Hyzen, the entire bureau's vice director. As for his background, he's the second eldest of the infamous 3 Hay brothers. They seem to have quite the power and influence. Yet, they risk death by choosing to side with the newcomer. A clash between big players leaves them looking for someone to lean on. Roll chuckles and asks why they're leaning on him, so they start with the emblem on his shoulder. Machen should have become the captain after Hyzen left, but the role was left vacant for a year, reserved for someone chosen by the Qingxi family. Countless people were contending for it, but one word from the clan decided it. This speaks volumes for his strength and connections, which is all that matters in the district they serve. In other words, they won't hesitate to betray him if he loses his worth, so he has to make sure that he never falls from his spot. In the vice director's office, Matian stayed bowing in silence, and was told to stop pulling such a bitter expression. He complains about the position that was promised to him a long time ago. The word promise makes Hyson growl and turn his chair. The imposing man stared, saying he doesn't remember doing such a thing. Feeling left in the air, Machen sheepishly averts his gaze with a frown. Hearing the tapping on the table, he asks if they're really going to let the newcomer take the position. Unfortunately, the decision of the Qingxi clan isn't something they can object to. It's a bitter pill, but now, victory depends on whether or not they can pull Roll to their side. The vice captain disliked the idea of recruiting the enemy, but it's foolish to not try and ally with someone connected to the Fox clan. He argues that the noble family isn't on the same side as the nine-headed beard. Hyson already knows this, of course, and it's exactly why they have to drag him into this conflict. Understanding, Machen obediently bows down to his backer. In the middle of town, Roll and Jira looked at a shoddy house, which is the new home she found for him. He forces himself to call it decent while looking at the mice around them. Unfortunately, it's the only thing available for the price he's willing to pay. She actually checked quite a few spots to try and satisfy his standards, but she wonders why someone earning a captain's salary had so little dedicated to rent. To him, life is hard, and he has a lot to save up for. He later handed a wad of cash to the human spy in the restaurant and asked him to deposit the money into an account in the immortal Martial Nation. After this, he went to a phone booth and called the orphanage dean, saying he sent some money to keep the place running. She worriedly asks where he is, as he left them without a word. Saying he can't explain so easily, Roll just assures her that he's safe, but falls silent when asked when he'll come back to his siblings. After a while, he promises to come back soon and hangs up. While walking away with a serious expression, he runs into Jira, who asks what was wrong. He brushes it off and moves to check on his new house. In the immortal Martial Kingdom, Muya stood in the middle of a huge platform. Her boss asks about her plans, as the committee wants to see results soon. She assures him that she isn't the type to fail. Unwilling to wait, he insists that the spy she planted should prove himself. In fact, he should be able to find a way to get the layout blueprints of Qingqi City, especially the coastal map, which is crucial to their next operation. This makes her wonder just what exactly they plan to do. Since the demons caused so much trouble in their territory before, the Bureau has decided that it's time to return the favor and strike back. Roll is in disbelief when he's ordered to get his hands on the coastal defense map. He just got there and wasn't supposed to be activated for a while. Muya casually says that there's no going around it. The committee doesn't trust her plan, so they need results to shut them up. Unfortunately, she has no time for excuses and reminds him of the consequences of failure. This gives him no room, so he slams the phone back onto the receiver and curses his wretched boss. Furious, the commissioner punches the phone and walks away, desperate to think of something before his deadline. Although the booth was completely wrecked, Muya simply smiled at her angry subordinate, looking at the Bureau's logo and saying she won't let them suppress her forever. In the patrol division's headquarters, the deputy director finally meets the first squad's newest captain. Roll politely says that he should have visited him much earlier, but Hyson isn't a fan of pleasantries and actually likes young talents like him. The newbie argues that he's prone to mistakes, and even clashed with Matian recently. This isn't new information to the deputy, so they both brush it off as a minor quarrel between peers. Promising to make the vice work properly from then on, Hyson adds that there's a case he'd like the captain to take over. He's happy to take on a task. They've identified a stash point for illegal medicine, a warehouse by the river. His job is to take it down immediately. While it's a heavy but short order, Roll obediently salutes to his commanding officer. Jira was sitting at the corner of the squad room, silent while the members stared at her with lecherous eyes. Korra makes a sleazy comment about her and is warned that she might hear, but he believes that she's nothing but the captain's pampered kitten. He realizes that she's staring him right in the eyes and starts to stutter when the girl, with oddly blank eyes, asks if he's talking about her. Her demeanor completely flips when she tells him to watch his mouth, and he feels a strong wind pass by his body. Just then, Roll entered and announced that they had a new mission. Jira jumped up, delighted to finally have something to do, and wonders what kind of mission while following the captain around. Still sitting in shock, Korra jolted up as his cup of coffee suddenly broke apart. The others exclaim upon realizing that it's the girl's doing, and quickly follow the superior who they don't want to keep waiting. He stood up and looked at his soiled clothes, embarrassed. Back in the Qingqi clan's home, Bailey uninhibitedly bawled in front of the great ancestor, obviously wanting her to do something about it. Dana asks what the young one was doing, and is told that it's too suffocating to be left alone at home all day. Her two friends were out patrolling, and she had nothing else to do. That said, it was her who sent Jira to protect Roll in the first place, but now she regrets not going there to do it herself. She imagines the two developing feelings after getting too close to each other. Slightly surprised, Dana asks if she's really fallen for the young man. Blushing red, Bailey denies the allegation completely, but firmly protests when the ancestor considers setting Roll and Jira up. She's caught in her lie, and just asks if he'd like someone like her. Her lack of confidence isn't something she, a Hazan of the Qingqi clan, should be saying as a first-rate warrior. If she likes someone, she should be brave and go for it regardless. This gives her the clarity she needs, and the old woman sees that she's seriously considering this time around. She's met so many talented men before, but has never acted this way. Bailey reasons that the seemingly stoic young man was different from the rest. He isn't rough, flattering, or distant, and being with him just felt natural. The girl has fallen hard. Unfortunately, Roll's background is rather plain for their clan. While she might not care about that, their opinion does not really matter. At the end of the day, what's important is her father's attitude towards the matter. She tries to protest at first, but falls silent after a moment. As the head of the clan, their future together is entirely up to him. Shaking with frustration, she says she doesn't want to end up in a joyless marriage like her sisters. Her feelings are for her to decide on. With determined eyes, she walks out and across their home. She comes across Luke, who seemed to have been waiting for her. Taken by surprise, the young lady asks if there was something wrong, and is told that the clan head would like to speak to her. It isn't something she wants to do, but has no choice but to answer the summons. In front of Oro's room, the steward announces her presence. She's told to come in, and is immediately met with the imposing symbol that demanded solemnity. A long time ago, Bailey quietly kneeled before a solemn fire, grieving and quietly calling to her sister who had just passed away. The memorial tablet stood there, while the young lady blamed her father for forcing her into an arranged marriage. Just then, the doors opened, breaking the silence. She looked to her back and glared at her father, who glared right back. As she turned away, Oro walked forward, not bothering to close the door, and lit a few incense sticks to raise by his head. Refusing to meet his eyes, she says there's no need to put on an act. He places the sticks by the tablet and argues that he had lost a daughter, just as she lost a sister. This enrages her, who screams and says that he has no right to say such words. After all, she died after he sacrificed her for the family's gain. He pitifully looked at her and sighed in resignation. Looking at the tablet again, he states that it was simply her fate to go through that, a statement that Bailey can't believe she just heard. As such, he emphasizes that it was her fate, as someone born into their family. She questions who decided to give her such a ridiculous and terrible fate. Her sister always listened to him, unable to choose, but this is how she ended up. Oro smacks his daughter across the face so hard that she falls to the ground, and reveals that it wasn't him who pushed her into hell. It was her, Bailey. This makes her get up in angry confusion. Finally, he shares that she was the one originally meant to be involved in the arranged marriage, but her sister took her place for her sake. Tears fell upon hearing this, and she could remember her older sibling hugging her with a smile, telling her to go live her own life. The poor girl can't stop crying as she thinks about her. Soon enough, she was sobbing and wailing. On the other hand, Oro says it was time for her to finish what was started. The statement was preposterous, but he was intent on doing whatever was needed for the sake of the clan, even if it meant sacrificing another daughter. Bailey stood in front of her father's quarters with a cold expression. Stealing her resolve, she pushes the door open and enters the room. With the two now facing each other, Luke closes the door with a deep bow. As soon as their fiery eyes met, Oro confirmed that his daughter had finally returned. She left and joined the court for 3 years, vanishing without a word. Nonetheless, she finds nothing wrong with what she did, and refuses to be his tool. The clan head couldn't believe what he was hearing, so the young lady questions if her words are untrue. He insists that she should have understood her duty as a child of their clan. Instead, she ran off to the human nation to carry out missions and got caught. Anything she said there could have dragged them down with her. She tells him to relax, assuring that she didn't say anything. Since she's back now, her father gets more ideas, but she speaks ahead of him and vows to kill anyone he marries her off to. He's enraged by her impudent words. Surprisingly, he calms down and asks to know her plans with her life. As soon as she shares her intention to join the Westgate troops, his ears prick up. Already knowing that she's doing this to get closer to the boy she brought, Bailey openly admits that he's right. In any case, he's using Roll to cause trouble and give them an excuse to intervene, but they still haven't figured out who the real supplier is. While Oro is surprised that she knows about this, the young lady confidently says that she knows far more than that. 5 years ago, his raid on the district failed, and neither he nor the Long clan got what they wanted. Still, the entire thing caused the death of her sister and countless members of the demon race. Meanwhile, the people behind it walked away without a single scratch. He stays silent amid the allegations, so she tells him to send her there, and maybe she can finish what he failed to do. The head asks if she actually knows what they're trying to accomplish. Bailey is confident that she does. They want to eliminate illegal drugs and control the population by monopolizing pharmaceuticals. Doing a few computations in her head, she says it's been nearly 100 years since they lost control. To be precise, it's been 103 years and 4 months since the Fox King was defeated and restrained by the Lord of 10,000 Demons. Since then, Qingqi City had no longer been the holy city of their clan. It was maddening to think about the length of time that has passed. With a deep sigh, the clan head is filled with anger and determination to reclaim the glory that belongs to them. Bailey already knew about her father's goal, but he's more determined than expected. Oro says she'll eventually know what his plan is, just not yet, then approves her request to join the Westgate defense troops. The young lady turns to be on her way, but is suddenly stopped by her father. Asked if he has any further instructions, he orders her to stay away from Hoshin, as what's about to happen is beyond her control. She monotonously questions if this is his way of showing concerns, but he just barks and tells her to get lost already. Later on, Bailey arrives at the Westgate Defense Troops base. People are gathered and lined up, called over to be introduced to the new commander of the 3rd Battalion. The deputy tells them all to give her a warm round of applause, but the soldiers below were still unable to believe that they were going to be led by a woman. Shizi felt the same way and thought she had already wet her pants from fear. However, she simply glared at them before turning her gaze to the deputy. She knows that this must be their little initiation prank. The 3rd Battalion is filled with troublemakers who've already scared other commanders away. Unfortunately for them, it won't work on someone like her. She's done talking and would like to settle things the proper way, so she suddenly points to the deputy, who's confused and doesn't understand what she wants from him. Bailey challenges him to a match and promises to leave if she loses. If she wins, they'll have to follow her lead without any more questions. He shakes his head and tries to discourage her from the outrageous idea. After all, he can't afford the consequences of hurting her, who has tiny arms and legs. There won't even be any glory in winning against a mere woman. She scoffs at him and mockingly calls the deputy a coward. Since he won't make the first move, she charges in while telling him not to blame her. He's surprised once by her speed, and again when one strike sends him tumbling back from the force. Although he doesn't fall, His face was wounded from the exchange, and the subordinates watching below are stunned that she even got a hit in. They cheer and tell him not to lose to a woman. Breathing hard in disbelief, Shizzy screams and questions if the newcomer really is crazy. She chuckles and asks if he thought she was joking earlier. If he doesn't take things seriously, he might actually die during their fight. He shakes with anger and gets ready to fight, following the commander's order. The deputy charged in with an unyielding ferocity, pouncing right at his target and announcing that he had no intention to hold back anymore. In the patrol division vice director's office, Hyson looked far away while Matian asked if he's really allowing Roll to handle the illegal drug bust. Sick of his questions, he doesn't even face him and suggests that he use his brain more. They've been dealing with the illegal dealers on the street for years now, and it's safe to say that they haven't really been doing a great job at suppressing them. After all, there's a hidden supplier controlling the distribution network, and they'll have to catch him if they want to dismantle the entire operation. This is exactly why he's sending Roll to the extraction point. Machen is surprised, as his words indicate that he already has a lead on the person behind it all. The informant he planted in their ranks has finally gotten close to their inner ranks. After meeting the mastermind, he reported the meeting location back to him. The deputy is still confused why he wasn't being sent instead of the kid, and is told that someone as important as him shouldn't do such high-risk missions. The big words flatter the old man, who quickly changes his tone. He wonders what the next move is. They'll gather a strong force and surround the target location completely. While Matian saluted, the match in the 3rd Battalion was still raging. Watching his opponent dodge his strike again and again, Shizzy asks if she's going to keep hopping around like a rabbit. Arguing that she might be the toughest bunny he'll ever meet, Bailey is told to keep hopping around if she wants to live. He sends a wave of slashes with his razor-sharp claws, but she completely dampens and negates the damage with her 9 thick tails. As she opens them up, she reveals herself to be completely unscathed, and he's shocked that his steel claws couldn't even leave a scratch on her body. She wonders if he's done showing off his killing moves. If this is all he's got, then she might as well start striking back. He brimmed with rage, still refusing to lose to a female demon. The audience tells him to take her down without holding back already. Unleashing an ear-piercing roar, he stepped forward and sent a punch to her head, but she perfectly ducked down to dodge and counter with a palm strike to his chest. It wasn't heavy, but his heart felt all the damage and nearly stopped beating. He's knocked out cold with that one blow and lifted off the ground with a single arm, raised for all to see. The soldiers couldn't believe that he was beaten so easily. Smiling at them, Bailey asks if there was anyone else who wanted to challenge her. Waiting for an answer, Bailey chuckles and asks if everyone got cold feet all of a sudden. After sharing a few understanding looks, the men dropped to their knees and pledged absolute loyalty to the battalion commander. Satisfied, she says it's an honor to work with them all, then turns to the deputy, suggesting that it's time for him to wake up now. His eyes were closed, but his entire body was shivering. With the fact that he's pretending to be unconscious revealed, he humbly drops to the ground like the rest of the men. Asked if he yields, he surrenders completely and vows utmost obedience to her. As soon as she told him to stand already, the huge bell tower began ringing continuously. Still new to this, Bailey asks what that is. It's the Grand Battalion's command bell, signaling that they have a mission. A messenger came, saying they have orders to gear up and assist in suppressing rebels. She's skeptical about the mission, but there are no details, and they're to coordinate with the patrol bureau. The mention of the bureau makes her smile. Meanwhile, Shizzy urges her to move as delaying action is punishable by death. She'll know when she gets there, but Bailey is curious if it's related to Roll. With this, she commands her men to gear up and move out, to which they salute in absolute obedience. At the same time, the first squad of the patrol division was speeding through the streets. Left at the back with 2 of the officers, Jira asks if it's too hot and wonders why they're sweating like crazy. They sweat more and turn red at the sight of the beautiful officer, so Roll tells her to stop teasing them already. He then makes conversation and asks about their personal lives. One has 2 children, with the younger child being a daughter. He considers the subordinate blessed, and the other chimes in, showering his daughter with praise. They're encouraged to work hard and look for brighter days ahead. All he can ask for is for his kids to grow up safe and sound. The captain asks the other officer this time, now about his father's bad leg. It's an old problem that leaves him with unbearable pain during cold seasons. Fortunately, they're in a better spot, ever since Roll raised their pay. They can even hold their heads high with pride now. He's confused why they were struggling so much, despite being under Matian. The 2 are quiet, unable to speak, so Cora reveals that they had to pay a regular tribute to the vice captain. He couldn't believe his ears. It was sort of a protection fee that they had to pay every month. Despite being treated like owned animals, they were still forced to give up their salaries. The news of the maltreatment takes Roll by surprise. Meanwhile, the officers became silent as the car sped through the road. He asks to know just how much their monthly fee really was. It varies per person, but for Cora, It was 50% of his monthly income. The two who joined after him give at least 70% every month. They stay frozen at the revelation, while the new captain exclaims in shock and disbelief. He asks why they were letting such a ruthless vice captain do that to them. Unfortunately, they had no choice, as being accepted into the force alone was a blessing. Disobedience might lead to them dying on the streets without a job. They undoubtedly had a very tough life until recently, which is also why they're extremely grateful to their new captain. He freed them from Mation's hold and even gave them all a raise without condition. Now, they were all willing to give their lives to him out of pure loyalty and gratitude. Roll is glad to hear such dedication from his team. He confirms that they're gradually nearing their destination, which is just ahead of the old factory district. Worried about how they were given firearms, Korra asks what the mission is and is told that it's an arrest operation. He doesn't get it right away and thinks it's like when they caught the kid last time. Reminded of the incident, Roll asks what they did with the child. The officer gets a sad look on his face. They brought him in and tortured him, but didn't get any useful information. When the kid later passed out from sheer pain, Madian gave them an order, demanding to know what it was. The captain is told that the kid was buried while unconscious but still alive. Even Jira exclaims upon hearing the cruel treatment. The entire car falls silent with guilt when the officers are asked if they all took part in it, until Korra confirms that they did. She curses them all, disgusted by the cowardice. They couldn't worry about that or be brave, knowing they'll be the ones buried if they disobey. Sighing in frustration, Roll silently vows to take Madian down. He tells his men to focus on driving and wake him up when they arrive, so they move through the road until they reach a large warehouse area by the docks. They wake the captain up as he asked, but he's confused as to why they're there. The dock connects to coastal defense, but it's been abandoned for a while. With access to the open waters, it's the perfect place for smuggling. They're ordered to secretly park and grab their gear as they're going to start investigating. Settling at a hidden spot, the patrol division's officers head out with their firearms, slowly navigating the area and making sure to stay undetected. They spot an enemy standing guard, seemingly bored over the slow day of the deal. With one swift movement, Roll grabs his head and snaps it to the side. He falls to the ground without another word, and the captain signals his subordinates to follow forward. Fortunately, they're skilled enough to do the same and slowly take the enemies out, one by one. At the entrance, they see a larger bunch of guards, so the others are told to stop for now. If they make a move now, it would alert too many enemies to their presence. Asked what they should do next, Roll stays quiet and surveys the area, eventually setting his eyes on an industrial crane. He gets a brilliant idea and, minutes later, they're above the crane that was towering over the main warehouse. It was a serious operation, but Jira couldn't help but gasp in awe at the beautiful view provided by their spot. She playfully answers her captain when she's scolded for getting distracted. Taking the lead, he belays himself down slowly and lands on the roof, with the others soon following his steps. Fortunately, they remain undetected. As for the next move, he scans their surroundings and spots a door to the inside. He tells Korra to head downstairs, but they quickly find that the door is locked and wouldn't budge. It was perfect for him. Roll stepped forward to have a go at it. He brought out his lock-picking tool, the same one he used in the prison escape. It doesn't take much for him to open the door to the inside. With his announcement, the officers are surprised upon seeing the skill for the first time. They were in the right location indeed, and watched from above as the targets discussed below. One man reported the Bureau's heightening crackdown on their private deals. They've already lost so many couriers in the span of a few days. A man with a huge silhouette hears the report and says the final showdown between sides must be drawing close. Korra wonders if this person is their boss, which is highly likely. That said, Roll is still unsure what his rank is exactly. It might be the right moment to strike since there are only a few enemies. What's more, it's too late to call for reinforcements, as they'll be gone when they arrive. The captain calls to the men and tells them to join his surprise attack. Meanwhile, Jira will sneak to the back entrance and block their escape route. She exclaims and protests, reminding him that she was ordered to protect him at all costs. Roll insists that he doesn't need her protection, but acknowledges how strong she is. As such, her order is to not let a single person escape. His sincere words reach her. Touched by Roll's sincere trust in her, Jira salutes and obeys his orders. Down below, the subordinate asks if they're really going to war with the Bureau at such a bad time. If both sides can stay out of each other's business, it won't be as bad. Hearing this hits Greg's nerves, so the man stands up and towers over the lackey, who was now trembling in his shoes. He crouches down to meet his eyes, showing the scars that travel from his face throughout his body. The Bureau did that, and trying to make peace will only have them killed. Finally, understanding, the lackey puts his hand up in surrender and asks what they're going to do next. He's instructed to tell every major dealer that Greg wants chaos on Hoshin. It'll be like 5 years ago, but they'll be pulling the strings this time, While no one is looking, they'll kill Hyson and the forces backing him. Affirming his orders, the subordinate salutes and runs off to start working, but a couple of canisters suddenly appear by the entrance. He froze at the sight of the smoke bomb. A moment later, the warehouse was filling up with a thick plume of smoke, and many more canisters were thrown from above. It was an ambush. The subordinate looked around and used the radio, trying to call to his boss, but a bullet suddenly shot through his head. He fell to the ground, lifeless, and Roll appeared with a gun in his hand. Their time is limited, so the priority is taking the commander down first. Understanding, the officers navigate through the smoked area, looking for their target. The amount of drugs scattered around was unbelievable. Distracted by the sight, one fails to notice the looming figure behind him. He turns around and raises his gun to fight back, but there was no one there. While he wondered if he was starting to hallucinate, a huge hand rushed from the side, going for his head. The officer reacts and shouts, informing the captain that he's under attack. Greg grabs the barrel of his gun and bends it with brute strength, elbowing him in the process, sent crashing into a pile of boxes. He loses the earpiece and the connection with his members. He can hear Roll's voice, repeatedly asking where he is and if he's okay, until the enemy stepped on the device completely. Now, he was completely helpless to the hulking figure's strength. Greg rushed in to strike, and the others finally heard an ear-piercing scream from the smoke. Heads turn, and the two others are told to move towards the source of the loud sound. They're a bit hesitant, but follow orders with full faith in their captain. Jira, still outside, offers to help them out. She's told to hold her position and stop anyone from escaping their clutches. Understanding, she stays by the door, already having taken out several enemies who tried to run away. Roll continued to advance forward, wanting to push the target from the front towards the back entrance. As they confirm the general plan, one hears the sound of fast footsteps. Greg was coming their way. Like a swift but raging bull, he charged at the next officer, who could only scream in terror before getting a heavy punch to the face. Like his comrade, his face was wrecked as he tumbled across the floor. Before things could get worse, Cora appeared, aiming his gun and telling the enemy not to move. Greg raises his hands, feigning surrender, and the officer informs the captain that he's captured the target. At the same time, Roll was in front, similarly aiming his firearm. While he commended his subordinate, the criminal saw the insignia on his cuffs and realized that he's dealing with the patrol bureau. He asks how they even found the place, but he isn't afforded an answer, instead questioned if he's the boss of the operation. Greg more or less confirms that he is, and asks if Hyson couldn't wait to make his move against him. The mention of the vice director surprises the captain. The truth is finally revealed, as Greg says that he's only reached where he is today. With the help of the director's support, Roll couldn't help but be shocked by what he heard. Hyson was being implicated in the entire drug network crime. Greg says it's only natural, as it wouldn't survive without the Bureau's support. Similarly, the vice director wouldn't reach his position without the money from the drugs. But why would he want to get rid of the man controlling the operation? Actually, the reason they were sent there is to get rid of Roll and not anyone else. With his death, the Quinquai clan will lose its foothold in Hoshin. Greg steps forward and Cora bravely threatens to shoot if he makes another move, but he doesn't care. The captain has been played into thinking that he's the hunter in the situation, when in fact, he's the lamb waiting to be slaughtered without even knowing it. The criminal suddenly disappeared from where he stood. Before they could react, he reappeared behind Cora. The officer is warned and told to move, but it was already too late to protect himself completely. He manages to raise his gun to lessen the impact, but he's still sent crashing to the walls. Roll opens fire at the enemy, who moves with incredible speed to dodge while steadily closing in. When he's close enough, his fingers turn into claws that slice the gun in the officer's hands. His eyes opened in shock. He must understand now that he was only sent there to die a foolish death. Greg strikes down hard, so much so that the ground beneath them caves in. To his surprise, there was no one there. Roll successfully backed away. Without a scratch on him, he asks what'll happen if he can't kill him. Assuring that that won't happen, the enemy conjures a sparking ball of energy and screams maniacally as he shoots a demonic ray at the captain. With clear eyes, he dodges and runs up the wall, gaining enough distance to circle around the target. Thinking he's just another pawn, the human starts to use his demonic powers as well. He strikes but hits the criminal's hard arm. After the successful block, Greg uses the opening to unleash energy rays from his eyes, which then hit his enemy right in the face. With a burning head, Roll is sent flying back. He stays on the floor for a while. His enemy promises to avenge him and kill Hyson sooner or later. Although the battle seemed to be over, the human closed his eyes tight and began to glow golden. His eyes opened with a blinding light and his body floated in the air, brimming with a familiar but odd energy. Greg could recognize it as a technique from the human clan, but has no idea why he's able to use such it as a demon. Roll's body glowed and burned with seemingly divine power. With a loud war cry, he releases his strength even more, nearly blinding his enemy with sheer aura alone. Now, he was ready to fight toe-to-toe. The captain asks the criminal if the deal Heisen gave is worth dying for. Greg actually smiles at him and displays that he isn't one to be daunted. As for his question, the answer will depend on how strong the officer is. A few kicks launch several hard rocks forward. Watching and waiting for the right moment, Roll swats them all away with a single hand, barely even breaking a sweat. The enemy tries something with rocks again, this time gathering them together to make a huge boulder. He throws it at the human, who was ready to show the demon one of their clan's fist techniques. By fusing his demon body's durability with his human techniques, his power rises even more. Like before, energy seemed to overflow from his body. Donning the force of a ferocious beast, he strikes forward to meet the boulder. Nothing happens at first, and they barely touch, but the enormous clump of rocks stops and shatters into pieces. Greg glared at him while the stones flew towards him. He just witnessed the Tiger Fist, one of the 12 forms. He didn't expect to see a member of the demon clan using a technique belonging to humans. As such, he's changed his mind and has decided to capture him, so he can study the enemy thoroughly. The two men exchange a few taunting words during the fight. Now, it was Greg's turn to teach him a lesson, so he slowly changed his form into a fearsome creature. A tail appeared, sharp claws grew, and hard red scales started to cover his body. He was demonizing. Standing as a completely different being, he tells Roll to come and show him everything he's got. His true form released so much killing intent. Just then, the demon's head rocked to the side from an unexpected blast. They're both surprised and turn to see Cora, sweating while he holds a gun that was still smoking. Seething at the uninvited interruption to their fight, Greg glared at him and charged. To Greg's surprise, Roll easily keeps up with his speed and follows. Before he could reach the petty officer, determined to protect his subordinate, the captain kicks the enemy and stops him in his tracks. As the two distance themselves from each other for now, the demon is given an opportunity to prepare another attack. The patrol members stared, anticipating his next move, when the enemy suddenly unleashed a blazing breath of fire at them. It's an unexpected power, but Roll reacts and takes on his wolf form to fight back. Staring at the flames, he takes a deep breath and lets out a powerful howl to push it away and extinguish the fire. His enemy is astonished that he actually managed to withstand his power. Now, it was time to test the strength of the little one's body. He dashed in and swung his fist, even following up with an elbow to the side. Both attacks are dodged without much trouble, but they were just distractions that allowed Greg's tail to wrap around his leg undetected. The appendage launched and sent him crashing to the warehouse's walls. While Roll propped himself up, complaining about the sneak attack, the demon was already above him and ready to strike. Sick of his annoying abilities, the wolf man raised his arms and growled, saying it was time to show him the ancient fist technique. He dodges and puts two bent fingers together, quickly using them to strike a pinpointed spot on the target. Before the enemy could react, he circled to Greg's back and now balled his fist tight, unleashing 6 accurate hits on his body. When he jumped back a great distance, the huge demon turned around, mocking his light punches that barely dented his scales. Roll looked on, panting and exhausted, while the criminal gloated about him wasting a golden opportunity. Just then, Greg's body trembled, and the delayed fists finally hit his pressure points hard. Soon enough, he was coughing his insides out and questioning what the officer did to him. It was nothing much, and he just pressed a few acupoints. Greg doesn't know about the acupoints his enemy was talking about, so Roll frankly says that he just pushed something important on his back, and that he'll feel the weight of the effects soon enough. The demon is skeptical at first, but his words prove to be true, and he's suddenly lurching and screaming in pain. He's panting hard now, back covered with open wounds. It must hurt considering that his meridians have already burst. While this is true, it was nothing compared to the painful memory of the scar on his face. Recalling the blazing flames, he stands tall and asks to see what else the enemy has in store. That said, he might die if he lands another hit on his spring point. Roll crouches down and disappears from where he stood. In the blink of an eye, he's unleashing a strike from behind, but Greg anticipated and dodged perfectly, even countering with the heavy swing of his tail. He blocks it well by raising his hands in time, but this leaves his body open to a big and hard punch. The hit knocks the wind out of his lungs and sends him tumbling across the floor. Roll was somehow losing, and only had 1 strike left in his tank. Greg's durability was insane, and he was pushing through despite the obvious injuries on his body. As if proving his strength even more, he grabbed his arm and tore it right off with a loud shout. He couldn't believe the ridiculous sight of the demon opening his mouth wide and chomping down on his own limb. This allows him to recuperate from his other injuries and regain his stamina. Now, he was feeling even better than when they started their battle. With amazing speed, he disappears from his spot and appears right by Roll, planting a strong uppercut deep into his gut. Greg sends him high into the sky and jumps to meet him in the air. There, he raised his remaining arm and swung down with so much power that the patrol captain broke the ground as he crashed down. The demon looked down at the weak enemy, who helplessly groaned about falling short and failing to land one more hit. It was over. All he needs to do now to complete his mission is to kill the arrogant young man. Just then, Greg finds himself restrained, his limbs all heavy as the 3 patrol subordinates clung to him with their entire bodies. Their captain was barely awake, so Cora called to him while holding the enemy, telling him to wake up. The others echoed his pleas, risking their lives with what they were doing. Nonetheless, Roll couldn't move a muscle. On the other hand, Greg scowled at their feeble attempt at stopping him. He kicks the first away with barely any effort. Then, he shoots a concentrated breath of flames that blasts through his body, incinerating bones and flesh alike. The sight of the fallen comrade makes the captain tear up, more so when he uses his last words to thank his superior. Cora cursed the wretched demon and raised his hand to punch, but turns pale and sweats when he meets the enemy's unforgiving gaze. Greg grabbed his entire head with one hand and began to squeeze, harder and harder, until his skull couldn't take it anymore. Again, the patrol squad screams and cries. The last officer trembled in fear while he clung to the demon, who smiled knowing he felt true terror in his bones. He ran as fast as he could to escape, but stopped after getting a gaping hole in his body. Just like that, all 3 of them were gone. Roll shook with rage, finally gathering enough fury to force himself back up. Despite his injuries, he vows to kill the criminal who murdered his comrades, but Greg could say the same thing to him. He's the only one who had enough strength left to charge in. On the other hand, the captain was going to bet it all on the one chance he had. The red demon's claws pierced through his chest, lifting him into the air. The attack wasn't something he could dodge, but neither was it something he wanted to do. Roll had him exactly where he wanted him. His body started to glow like before, confusing the enemy. He was going to release his energy, and the move shouldn't be able to survive either. A blinding flash of light consumed the entire warehouse, and even Jira is shocked by the explosion that comes from inside. She turns around and sees the entire place in a wreck. Walking through the debris and rubble, she calls to Roll. Suddenly, she finds a red figure standing amid the thick smoke. It was Greg, still barely clinging to life after the full frontal assault. The captain was on the floor, shaking, and managed to order her to catch the criminal already. However, Jira was frozen still. Her eyes met Greg's and, for some reason, they both fell into an uncontrollable wave of tears. The 2 stared at each other, crying but completely silent. Greg's eyes teared up as he recognized the person in front of him. Jira also shook, barely stopping the tears in her eyes from falling. Roll shouts at her, questioning why she wasn't making her move, but she couldn't. She remained frozen until eventually, the roof blew up and soldiers came jumping down from high above. Before anyone could react, the demon was suddenly surrounded by the military. When the wall was also hacked apart, heads turned to see who had come. A couple familiar silhouettes appeared. It was Shizzy and Bailey, who smiled at the interesting scene that they've come upon. Looking at Greg, she finally identifies the illegal boss behind it all. The demon sees her and says he doesn't want to be her enemy, but she just confirms if he really is the mastermind behind it all. Satisfied with his answer, she decides that he'll be coming with her. He refuses, saying he has more important things to do with his time. Realizing that he won't give in so easily, she makes her move with speed and power incomparable to Roll's. He's sent flying and tumbling on the ground with a single punch. Groaning and struggling to even open his eyes, he finds multiple blades near his face. Standing around him was a group of soldiers all pointing their spears at him. Bailey wasn't in the mood to play nice with the criminal, and ordered her men to take him away already. However, Jira called to her companion with a troubled expression. The young lady is confused and asks what's wrong, but the attendant bites her tongue and stays silent. Hearing that Roll was also doing fine despite his fight, Bailey asks if this counts as a hero saving a damsel in distress. As he offers to pledge himself to her in return, she blushes out of surprise and walks away, saying she isn't really into keeping dogs. Still, she hides her smile while leaving, no longer hearing him argue that he's a wolf, not a dog. Meanwhile, Jira was looking forward and wondering what she was going to do. Greg obediently walked forward, guided by the soldiers, and looked back to meet her eyes. He tells her not to worry about him, which makes her tear up even more. Noticing this, Roll surprises her by asking what was wrong, and wonders if she somehow knew the criminal who was being brought away. Jira turns away, denying and saying he's overthinking things, but he couldn't help but feel like she was hiding something from him. The corpses of the 3 fallen officers were laid out in a gruesome line, and Roll could only look at them with a sullen face. Other people came in to cover their bodies and carry them out of the warehouse. As one arm drops out of and hangs from the stretcher, Heisen asks them to wait. Holding it firmly, he promises to take care of the families they'll be leaving behind and makes a show of wanting to give them a proper burial. The captain watched him without a word, but the vice director turned to him and asked if he's okay, even moving his body around to check if he was wounded in any way. Sharing that he's sustained some minor injuries, he says he'll be fine after resting. As they can't afford to lose such a competent subordinate, Hyson vows to get him treated by his personal doctor. The young captain is invited to ride back to the city in his car. Looking straight at it, he sees a large man standing at attention and questions who it is. It's Scarface, a reliable bodyguard who's been with him for years now. Unwilling to ride a vehicle with unfamiliar people, he opts to take his team's car. With this, they part ways for now. Jira appears and calls her captain over to their ride. Seeing her for the first time, Hyson notices that she looks somewhat familiar. Roll introduces her rather curtly, even walking into the passenger's seat to end their conversation as soon as possible. With the two shut inside the truck, they sped away without another word and completely ignored the vice director, who was waving and telling them to be careful. Meanwhile, Hyson was still thinking about Jira with a sinister expression. On the road, Roll grunted and winced, obviously in pain from the battle. He nearly coughs up his insides and makes his attendant scream in surprise and worry. Having used up all his energy, he needs to rest and recover as soon as possible, but the deputy likely won't allow him to do that so easily. His words make it seem like Hyson was trying to kill him. With this, he reveals that he's actually the mastermind behind the illegal drugs. As long as Roll was alive, he was going to keep going after him. Just as he said, several cars followed their vehicle, surrounding it from both sides and forcing it to speed forward. Inside, masked men got ready to enact their mission of leaving no one alive. Jira looked around as they were sandwiched by enemy cars. At the Hoshin Patrol Bureau, Jira stood straight with a stoic expression on her face. Distinct sounds echoed from the interrogation room, where Greg hung from the ceiling, getting countless wounds from endless whipping. Despite the injuries, he mocks Matien, who grunted as he struggled to get any information from the suspect. He scoffs at him for acting tough, even when he's about to die. Saying he must be dreaming of escape, he orders him to divulge the location of the money. To his frustration, the criminal plays dumb and oblivious to what he's talking about. He must think that the Bureau doesn't know anything about him. He's been siphoning profits from the black market, constantly exchanging it for gold. Now, they want to know where he hid all that gold. Greg sticks to his story about not knowing what he's talking about. As Machen was about to whip him again, Hyson appeared, telling him to stop and leave to let them speak in private. The vice asks for more time, eager to get the information they need from him, but is sternly ordered to get out immediately. He has no choice but to follow orders, and the two are left alone as intended. The director says he never expected the old friend's face to turn out that way, but Greg scowls at him, knowing this is exactly what he wanted. After all, he's the one who made him who he is today, particularly with the fire he planned and caused all those years ago. Hyson insists he had no intention to harm him, and just wanted the underground market. It's hard to believe the words of a conman. The deputy tells him to hand over the gold, in exchange for a chance at life. However, Greg wasn't going to fall for such lies a second time around, and he vows that he won't get a single cent out of the gold he collected. Infuriated, Hyson once again called to Matien, who pathetically answered the call. He's ordered to find where the gold is, and use whatever means necessary to do so. The door closed behind him. Now, a red-hot branding iron was brought to the incapacitated suspect. As the officer promised to take good care of him, the lights in the prison all suddenly went out, much to their confusion. Jiro walked through the dark halls with weapons in hand.